AMT's 1966 Buick Modified Stalker. Coming up next on Monster Hobbies, What's in the Box? What's in the box?
What's in the box?
What's in this box?
What's in the box?
Hello once again, race fans. Are you ready to join me back on the oval track as we unbox this amazing AMT Ertl 1966 Buick Modified Stalker? Well, of course you are, because last week you got to see the 1965 Oldsmobile Modified Stalker, and you want to continue this great series. But don't forget, I also did the 35 Chevy and a 34 Ford, which will be proudly displayed in the winner's circle at the end of this video, so that you can click on those links and check out those great videos. So now, without further ado, let's pay our entry fee by clicking like, subscribe, and sharing this video with all our friends and family, pounding that notification bell as our stamp to get into the turnstile gates. And we need the attendance of 100 likes to make this a great racing season. So now, without further ado, let us join ourselves down in the pits as we open up the lid on this and get it ready for racing. And now, race fans, we return once again to our dirt track as we take a look at our 1966 Buick Modified Stalker by AMT Ertl under the old RC2 label. Now, this kit is my fourth model kit in this Street Stock and Strip series. Of course, we had our 1934 Ford, our 1935 Chevrolet, the 1965 Oldsmobile, and now, last but not least, our 1966 Buick Modified Stalker. Now, these Modified Stalker series originally came out in the 1968-1969 AMT calendar year, the original AMT. And these cars were popular back in the day, as racing was all the rage in the 60s. So when these model kits came out, they were part of a series, and when RC2 re-released them, they only released 4 out of that original series. So now here we have our box, and I do believe it doesn't quite say yet, so maybe like in the last Oldsmobile review, I actually found on the bottom of the chassis it was molded in which car this was. So I do believe, just looking at this, that this is the Buick Grand Sport, the GS, for the year. Although we will see as we open this thing up if I'm correct or not. So anyway, we turn the box over to the side, and again we can see some great pictures of the model kit. This, of course, is the cover picture. And then in this panel here, I'll just zoom in if you don't mind. There we go. You can see we have the engine bay and our interior through the passenger side window, or the driver's side maybe. And then we have our rear 3/4 shot of the car with the 8 for, of course, our Buick V8. Now let's back this back out again so that I can turn the box up this way. And you see on this side, of course, is the same as the front. And here we get our kit part number 38534 and our barcode. And then if we turn it down to this side, we can see that this kit again came out in 2006, just like the other 4 in that series. And we have a sponsorship by GM and Goodyear. And then we get into our skill box. So right here we have that this is a skill level 2, which is moderate for ages 10 and up, requires glue and paint. And of course, the other end of the box is, of course, the same as the front. So we'll just turn this thing over, and I'm going to take the lid off. There we go. Let's get this out of the way. And now we can see inside our box. We will look at the instructions in just a minute. So I'm going to move this to the side. Here's our decal sheet, which I'm going to keep covered to the end, so if you want to see what this looks like, stay tuned to the end of the video. And we'll just get that there. I'm showing you guys how they packaged this thing originally. So we have our chrome in a nice plastic bag, which keeps it from scratching up in the model. Move that over there. Here is our body, and RC2 was kind enough to put in this piece of cardboard, because the way they had this in here, right, if this gets pushed into the side, it could crush this. So they put this piece of cardboard in between the roof and the front pillars here for our windshield so that it wouldn't crush down the top of the roof. Moving the body off to the side, we have our bag here with the tires in it, and these are much the same as the modified Stalker tires in our Oldsmobile kit. Very deep, man. Okay, just thought I'd add that in. So then we have our final bag here with all our gray components, and you notice something different. In the Oldsmobile, they had this chassis mounted onto a piece of cardboard to keep it from damage. Here it is mounted, it's not mounted, it's in the bag. So that's our final piece that was not, set up the same way as last time. So I'm just going to put these components back into the box for a minute. And then, keeping the decal sheet covered for our mystery, we'll put our instructions back in. We will take a look at the instructions next. Now our instructions again are the fold-out big page style. So I will have to zoom in on the individual panels in just a minute. But as we can see here, this is a reproduction of the original instruction sheet, which would have come out again in like 1969, 68, 69. And again, it has this type of Star Trek lettering that was popular back in the day. And we can see down here, RC2 has their logo on there. So let's take a look at this panel by panel. So I'll just zoom in again here, move it around a little. Okay, so here we have step number 1. We have our engine assembly, and now this is supposed to be the Buick 401, the nailhead engine. Could also be a 400, but I will give a little bit of a hint away. On the instruction sheet, they're talking about a Buick 455. So that would be a larger type of Wildcat motor or whatever that would have come out a little bit later, or actually have been in the bigger Buicks at the time. This, of course, is a Buick Skylark GS Grand Sport. So at any rate, we do have the nailhead because the way the valve covers are located on our cylinder heads, they are straight up and down, as opposed to being angled with the top of the cylinder heads. So here we have our stock air cleaner and our stock 4-barrel carburetor, including our intake manifold. We have our front engine cover here with a pulley assembly, the fan going in there, and the alternator coming up on here, with our power steering pump sitting here. So this is a pretty factory type motor. We have our oil pan and our oil filter coming up under here. The exhaust headers, which are going onto our cylinder heads, and our valve covers dropping on the cylinder head. So there would be, of course, these ones going on over here, but just for clarity of the image, they do not put them on. And then underneath here, we have our wheel assembly, and much like our Oldsmobile from 65 that we reviewed last week, again we have these big monstrous tires, and they call out for putting in your own tread pattern on here if you are racing on the dirt, or for paved track, just sand your tires. Okay, now let's take a look at step number 3, which is the chassis. And again, this Buick is like our Oldsmobile, although you do glue a cross member in between your front suspension, your front A-arms, lower A-arms, and drop the engine in onto the flat panel chassis. You have your 2 metal axles and your assembled wheels going on there, and your exhaust headers are going to pop up underneath here once you've got it all together. And here we have our interior. Now this is a little bit different from the way they did the Oldsmobile, and I'll show you in just a minute. This is the first step of our interior. So we have again our racing seat with the 4 seatbelt harness going right into the floorboards. Then we have a shift plate and our shifter lever, so that's 2 pieces, as well as our steering wheel and our instrument panel. And if you see here, we've got the little clips again. So this might have been taken from a mold, modified mold of a promotional car back in the day, promotional model kit. So just so you guys know, it is a peg and post style car, which if you've been watching these videos, you know what a peg and post is, because I'm always referring to it as that. So here's the second part of our interior. Once the first part is all down, this of course is the roll cage going in, all padded for the protection of the driver. So we've got crossover braces and side braces, a center brace, the passenger side, driver's side brace, pardon me, and the rear angled bracket there, or brace. Now, one thing that's different from the Oldsmobile is that the Oldsmobile had the aluminum panels going up behind the seat and all the way across. This kit does not have that, at least in the instructions here. So now we get into our body components. We have our interior shell dropping in onto those posts there, and then we have our posts in the back and the front. So again, just like the promotional models of the day, you would screw the chassis onto the body in that way. So there we've got our battery going on to our front radiator support wall, and our firewall going into these notches here, which should come up touching, the front of our assembled interior. And of course we just get one front windshield for the lightweight racing. And then here on the back are the final assemblies. Now there's our GS style hood with the vents in there. This is of course the stock hood. It doesn't have the hood pins like the Oldsmobile did. You got your outside mirrors, the side braces for if you're going around the track and you spin out and you get T-boned. Then here we have our front bumper brace, and of course our front bumper and grille. And note that the quad headlights have been blanked out by these metal plates. And then we just push our instructions here to get to the back panel. So there we have our official license Goodyear and GM. Here's our rear bumper brace going onto the back bumper, and the bumper just popping onto there. And of course we don't have any taillights, so these would be blanked out with pieces of aluminum again, just like on the real race cars. So now we get into our gray components, and we start off with, of course, the body, the biggest thing we've got here in the entire kit. Now keep in mind that this kit would have all the chrome removed because, again, this is a modified stocker designed for the street. I guess I'll have to hold it this way or zoom back a little more. There we go. There we go. Okay, so here, of course, we have all our trim removed, although, actually, if you look at it, there's still a little bit of trim down at the bottom here. So this kit may not have been as fully racified as some of the other kits in this series. However, it is still pretty blank. There's no door handles on the door, for example, which would be removed because of weight and covered over for aerodynamics. We do have the trunk line cut in, as well as our door line panels. And of course we still have the vent right here along that part of the body. Again, we have our peg and post with our radiator support wall here. And into the back, again, these are pretty deep tubes. So you could mount this onto a slot car chassis if you wanted to race this in your slot car league. Then we have the little groove here for a firewall where that would mount. There is no headliner panel in here, the same as the 68 Oldsmobile did not have one. One thing that's cool about these Buicks is they had this tunneled roof, which was a neat feature for the time. And there are no Buick letters or anything on here. Now, one thing I wanted to show you, but I made a discovery here that I don't like. Here's our hood, and this still has the chrome vents on there, which is nice, as well as the chrome strip that goes in there. It does have hood pins, which were not drawn in the illustration, but the thing that I'm upset with is one of my hood hinges broke here. Broke right off. In fact, there it is there. So I know I won't be able to put that back on because it'll just break off again. So anyway, turning the hood over, you can see the mold marks. But again, these are raised, so they're easy to get rid of with the hobby file or your number 16 hobby blade. There's a little bit of the fireproof matting in here, in between the braces. So again, it's got its detail, but it's not quite perfect. Now, what I wanted to show was the fit and finish of the hood. And as you can see, it is going to be quite a nice tight fit into there. Oops. So now I'm going to put this to the side and we'll take a look at it in a few minutes here. But anyway, that should finish off our examination of our Buick Skylark GS body. Alright, so since we just looked at it, we might as well continue with it. I won't talk about the hood if you don't. Now, this is interesting. Here we've got 4 wheel backs, but these are for stock Buick wheels. And here we've got one of the front bumper braces and our 4-point harness bucket race seat. So again, if we turn this over, you will see the mold marks on the bottom of the seat, which can easily be removed by a file. But you see one is up and one is sunken. So you're going to have to use putty in the sunken one. And you might have to do that a few times to make sure your putty is not low. So now we have the chassis of our Buick Skylark GS sitting here. And as you can see, it's really been simplified for this race edition. In fact, there's no detail in these underneath panels here, the interior panels. There we have our front suspension. And as you can see here, these holes, again, would be for our screw-mounted promotional style model kit. The only real detail on here is on the gas can, or the gas tank, pardon me. There are some little rivets that are barely visible sitting on there. Our Buick rear axle is just molded in as one piece, so you can see some of the arms in there. But yeah, really basic. And if you turn it over, of course, you get your posts in there for a peg and post. And now, remember I was saying I didn't know if it was a Skylark or not? It actually says right in here, Buick Skylark used under license. So yeah, we can see that that's the way that is. And a bit of flash again, so you're going to have to clean that up with your hobby knives and sandpaper. Now here we have our sprue with our wheels. These are the wheel fronts and wheel backs. And here again we have a 6-bolt wheel pattern, so that you get the extra pressure onto holding our wheels onto our brake drums. And these are wheel backs, and as you can see, they have the shaft for the metal axles to go into. They are quite deep, in fact very deep, so you can imagine the thickness of the tires going through here. Alright, so now here we have the Buick 455, or the 401 cubic inch nail head. And it's not really too clear as to which is which. But anyway, it looks like here we have a standard transmission. And we've got our air cleaner sitting here, as well as our cylinder heads. The oil pan, which is shortened because this is again with the metal axles going through the bottom of the engine block. And then we've got our distributor and some of the other components under here for our engine. Now, what's in this kit that's not in the instructions are these carburetors here and this intake manifold that also has injectors, chrome injectors. And here we've got our regular Buick intake for the single barrel carburetor and our single air cleaner, as well as our belt and pulley system here. And there's our battery. And again, you'll notice we've got 2 different types of headers here. These long ones, and then what looks to be the stock style Buick exhaust manifolds. So if you guys have built this kit in the past and know what this one is from, with the extra carburetors and whatnot, please let us know in the comment section down below which kit that was and what it was. Hey everybody, this is Trevor Selescu, owner of Monster Hobbies, and I wish to thank all of our patrons out there for your great support in keeping this channel alive. Without your contribution, we would not be around, so thank you again very much. And if you would like to become one of our patrons, please check it out at www.patreon.com/monster_hobbies. Anyway, let's continue on with our great video. And here we have our interior tub again, and this one is very basic, just like in the 65 Olds. Now, you'll notice here, like I was saying in the previous video with the 65 Oldsmobile, is that round 2, or RC2, sorry, has the steering wheel in a clear plastic bag again. So I'm just going to put this off to the side for right now. But here, if you look at the seat, it's actually got the metal plates into the seat. So it's a little bit weird. I can see what they're trying to do here, but again, it's bizarre. So just like the Oldsmobile, the interior is basically pretty straight. There's no door handles in here, but there are the rivets all the way along. There's also no carpet in the floor pan, but we do have our standard transmission with the gas pedal, the brake, and the clutch. And there are some mold marks in here, and there's a little carryover from this being an upholstered interior. There's a bit of a rubber floor mat, a little mesh in there. But anyway, we won't hold that against them. And yeah, we got the little click tabs here, again for those posts in the peg and post underneath the body. And now we have the steering wheel in a plastic bag again. And I've noticed on the wheel, looking through the bag, oh, come on camera. Okay, that it has some improved grip on here on the steering wheel ring. But again, this is pretty standard for the Buick GS Skyline steering wheel. Carrying on here, we have our interior components. This, of course, is our dashboard, which we'll have a closer look in just a minute. And here we have our roll bar assembly. And these two pieces here are the side bars on the exterior of the car. This is, of course, the back of the roll bar. But you can see the nice padding on here for our driver, so that if he bumps his head on there, he won't get hurt. There's these little 4 retaining clips. I'm not sure what they are, where their locations are. But anyway, let's just take a look at this part here, if I can get my hand on it. Now, if the light catches this right, you can see the ribs along here for the padding. It's not too bad. On this side, there's a lot of these mold buttons that will have to be filed off and sanded in round like a tube. But overall, they are a softer mold, but should still look quite nice in your car. And then looking at the dashboard here, we can get it out of the shadows. We do have a whole bunch of gauges along here, but this is a fully race-ready type of dashboard with no glove compartment or radio or anything like that. Just all pure thoroughbred performance. And our final gray parts here, we have our the rest of our roll cage here, the right and left hand sides that would go up against the windshield. This part fell off of somewhere, but what it is, it's that cross mounting brace for our engine. at the front of the oil pan. Then here we've got our firewall, and this again is not a racing firewall. This is a proper Buick stock Skyline firewall. It's got our brake master cylinder and our heater blower assembly. Now this little piece, I'm not quite sure what it is, like from the instruction point of view, but it does look like it's supposed to be a custom part to go into the rear bumper. It's got that Buick W shape in there. These are the pins to glue the body together on. I'm not sure what this little guy is. Oh, that's our shift lever thing. I thought that would have been chrome, but it's gray. See, there's our body pegs. These are supposed to be like the little screws, so they would push in through those holes and up into the peg and post part of our body to chassis assembly. And then on the back here, we do have a couple of those mold marks, which again could be filed out of there. They may not need to be, but you're going to have to check that on the finished, or when you're putting the model together, to see if these are causing an interference between the interior bucket, front of the interior bucket, and the firewall itself. So it may have to be sanded smooth. There is some texture on here as well, and of course all our electronic wires and everything else. Oh, and there's our little fuse box thing there too. So anyway, that is that component. Alright, now we get into my favorite part of all the model kits, which is the chrome, just because it's all nice and shiny. So here we have our Buick Grand Sport front grille with, of course, the headlights blanked out with these chrome panels here, or aluminum panels, I should say. And to get the nice dark grille in here, you can easily use some Citadel black wash. Just lay it in there and wipe it off. Some Nuln oil is what it's called. And then here we've got our rear bumper. And again, the taillights are blanked off with those metal plates for racing. And yeah, sorry. Then we have our valve covers down here for the Buick nailhead, as well as our fan, which is chrome plated. And now here we've got, which weren't in the instructions, of course, these injectors. Nice chrome solid injectors here for, you know, getting air into the car. Then we've got our chrome gear shift lever sitting in here, as well as our side mirror. And then here, which is interesting, we've got these promotional style Buick wheels that are here. These are, of course, 5-bolt pattern mag wheels that Buick had, which are accurate to Buick. But if you look at these, you'll notice they've got a big hole here for your axle to go in. And then they have these little ribbed necks here. And that, of course, is for the promotional style solid rubber tire. It would be big on one side and then have an indentation in the back for this to fit through and a tiny hole here for that to go through. So these wheels don't really fit our, you know, our racing Buick here. But you can always keep these in your parts box for use if you're restoring a promotional model kit or want a different look for something. And remember, I had those wheel backs that were really narrow. Those would glue onto here as well. So pretty cool. And now if we just take a look at this up close, you of course can see that there's a mesh on these grills for your headlights. So that could be possibly an air intake kind of mesh or just a detail. And same with on the back with the taillights, or where the taillights used to be. But overall, there is some good detailing on these chrome pieces, even though it's not quite enough for my customizing standards. And now in this model kit, we only have one piece of glass, much like our 65 Oldsmobile modified stalker. And this one here is just the one piece. There is a bit of a tag here, which we'll have to saw off. I'm leaving it in the plastic bag just to protect it from scratches in the future. But really, it's just a piece of glass. There's not much to be said other than you could almost use these as sun visors. Now here's our tires again. And much like the other modified stalker kit, the 65 Oldsmobile, these are pretty much the exact same tires. They are big, wide Goodyears, and they don't give us any other information on the sidewall. And so we got the 4 tires here. These are the tire inserts that go into the back, and we've got 2 metal axles. So let's just take a look at one of these tires a little closer. If you note up here, it does say Goodyear right around there, and like I was saying, there are no other definitions. They are sunken in at the back, and the insert will go in just like this. And then the instructions say to either sand this off for a black top, or to take a hobby saw and saw in some angled lines in here, so sort of like this, and then you can go across this way so that you get a tread pattern in there. And these are quite nice tires, very wide slicks you can see, and all 4 of them are the same size, so really you get this if you have them all together. But yeah, lots of good handling on the track. And those are the tires. And now we come to the part of the video where we get to reveal our decal sheet. And now I'll just take off the yellow paper and we can see the beauty of these amazing decals from RC2. And now we've got the red and black outline, but this time the outline is more of a drop shadow in here to give it a little better 3D depth on your model kit. There's some beautiful pinstriping going on here on these Flying 8s. You can have Greg as your driver, or Scooter, or Keith. We've got Quonset Speed Shop this time around, and again this L, double L on the orange and black. We have some nice AMT Ertl Round 2 style decals that you can put anywhere on your car as sponsors. Then we have Buick, Goodyear for our tires. And what's this say here? We've got Brian's Paint and Pinstripe right there. See, here's our 455 cubic inch decals. So if that's the indication of the motor, there you go. We've got Johnson again, which I don't quite know who that is. And here we have Ron's. So if you know some of these sponsors, let us know in the comments below and who they're hooked up to. And now I'm just going to lift this up into the camera here just to get a better detail. There's our Flying 8. And of course we've got the numbers from 1 to 0, so you can have any number combination you want if you don't want the Flying 8s. And then there's our other names, Keith, Scooter, Greg. That's for both sides on the roof, or on the by the doors there actually. And there's your Buick and Quonset Speed Shop. And Brian's Paint and Pinstripe, which could also go onto some of the 53 Ford trucks on the doors if you wanted, or a station wagon or anything. And that's our decals. So let us know in the comments below which one of these great decal sheets that you like, be it the 34 Ford, the 35 Chevy, the 64 Oldsmobile, or the 65 Oldsmobile, or the 66 Buick here. And that completes our look at the Street Stock and Strip 1966 Buick Modified Stalker by AMT RC2. Well, I hope you enjoyed that amazing video of the 1966 Buick Modified Stalker, and hopefully it can beat the Oldsmobile, Chev, and Ford down there on the track. you will have to build it and you will have to decide who wins this amazing race trophy. So before we leave the auditorium, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this channel with all your friends and family. Pound that notification bell as your exit stamp for leaving the stadium. And let's go back to our 100 likes where we can relax after this amazing race. And until next time, see you at the track again.